Welcome everybody to Ask a CEO. I'm Greg Demetrio, the CEO of Lorraine Gregory Communications, which is an award-winning integrated marketing company here in New York. Today we have Patrick Sherwin, the CEO and founder of GoSun, coming to us from Cincinnati, Ohio. GoSun invents, designs, and produces solar technology devices that change the way people think about harnessing the power of the sun. I'll let Patrick tell you about some of the inventions he's come up with and how they came to be. But before we get into it, perhaps you could tell the audience about yourself, your journey to become a successful entrepreneur.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, I've always been interested in renewable energy, trying to help figure out how it can power our lives. Early on, I guess I was an entrepreneur real young. I was working with the neighborhood kids to help restore the creek in the backyard. And one of the neighbor teenagers dumped oil from their car into the creek, and it kind of ruined the aquatic environment that I had created. That turned me into an environmentalist and more of an engineer, inventor, tinkerer at heart. I just went into the solar industry trying to come up with innovations that would be applicable on a daily basis instead of a solar array on a rooftop, which I did that for about 15 years. I wanted to come up with solutions you could carry around to make life more fun and resilient. So I started GoSun about 6 years ago. I looked at crowdfunding. I went to Kickstarter and Indiegogo with a couple of innovations, and the business kind of took off.
So you got the funding from online.
Yeah, and we're actually doing now equity crowdfunding runs too. We used a website called Seed Invest in New York and another one called Start Engine in LA on two separate equity fundraisers.
Cool. Could you tell us what type of devices did you actually come up with?
The first one is a breakthrough oven that is fuel-free, and it runs on a vacuum insulated tube that I took technology from solar heating. And so it's super duper insulated because of the vacuum, and food can be made in like 20 minutes using nothing but sunshine. It works year round. It'll work through cloudy conditions. It's totally portable, durable, safe to touch. Yeah. We started that with a version that was it could feed about 2 people at a time. We have a version that feeds a family of 6 that's also running on 12 volts. So if the sun is not out, you can cook at night or indoors. And then we have a real small personal version that's great for just taking to a beach or backpack. We also make solar powered coolers. So we took a portable 12 volt refrigerator and modified that to run on solar and lithium ion. And so that's a really neat way to basically relate to keeping cold drinks and food without ice. So now you don't have to have the ice pulverizing the food and that, stirring up that stinky hot dog juice smell. You could just have a flip of a switch and set temperatures wherever you want. And the food stays dry and organized.
I saw that on your website, and you know what? The first thing came to my mind: no more soggy sandwiches with sand in them. That's such a great invention, really. I'm sure it's a good seller because I'm going to get one myself.
We're doing well with that, and the other part of that is the sanitation. You're washing your hand every time you go into a cooler full of watery ice.
Yeah.
And during COVID, it's not as fun to let everybody stick their hand in there. So.
No, absolutely not. So you're covering 2 bases with one, right? So listen, you did this whole off the grid thing. Is that where the ideas came up for these products that you're putting out now?
Yeah. You were mentioning I lived down in the Caribbean for many years. That was a very big experiment in realizing the power of the sun and also all of its limitations, the cost and difficulty of living on solar. And so, a huge source of inspiration. And everything we build is essentially capable of off-grid, but then it integrates also with 12 volt or AC power. So you can charge the batteries with the wall socket.
All right, so these are pretty interesting and unique products that you have. Tell me the process from idea to beta to production to mature to selling. It's got to be interesting.
Oh, that's for sure. And it's funny you mentioned the word process. We're absolutely trying to develop a process, and we have one, but I'll say it's a bit messy. And I make sure everyone knows, in my opinion of innovation at the scale of a small business that we're a part of, innovation's messy. Ideas come from everywhere at any time. During the process, you have an idea at the last second, you've already tooled up, and you realize this new idea is way better, and now you have to go and retool. So we struggle to stick to a very strict process, and at the same time, we use a lot of training from IDEO, which is essentially, idea, and do a bunch more of ideation. What are all the features and bennies that can be a part of this? And then, quickly build a prototype. Don't show up to a meeting without a prototype. Test that, get a lot of peer reviews, test it, refine it, go back to the peer reviewing and refining. We have several 3D printers in the office. We have a whole Arduino laboratory. We bring in samples from other products that we break apart and plug in, right. And it's a hoot. And then we go into like a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo. We'll sort of develop a commercial and say, hey, this is the product, we're about to build it. You can see the prototypes working. These are the promises that this will deliver. You can buy it today at 40% off. Just give us a few months to deliver, to manufacture, and go into production. And then that becomes like our test market for that product.
Have you utilized that before? Any other products?
We've done 9 successful crowdfund campaigns now.
Nice.
So pretty much every idea we have, we basically go to the crowd to have crowd validation.
So back to what you were just saying, are you the chief idea officer?
Yeah, there's more people than myself coming up with ideas at this stage. So originally, but it's great to see that ideas are coming from, and we try to build our business as laterally as possible so that ideas can come from anywhere, including our customers.
So tell me about the team. Tell me about the team that you've developed around yourself.
So a lot of design and marketing. Industrial designers here in Cincinnati has a great school for design, DAP, and the industrial design program is kind of the main one where we pick most of our staff. They can do anything, whether that's a 2-dimensional graphic or 3D model, build it by hand, even some sales. Mm-hmm. Then of course a bunch of the standards that any good hard good business would have with respect to fulfillment, customer support. We do have a full-time engineer on staff. He's always, that's a funny part of our process, is if I'm the idea guy, which to a large extent, I'm always working through ideas. And so, the engineer and I tend to butt heads a lot because he says, you can't do it.
You can't do that. I was gonna say that. He's like, you can't do that, man.
Which is really healthy. And, of course there's friction there, but we need to know that and to hear that, right. Especially early on. If an idea is not possible, it's good to shoot it down.
Move it down, right? So, okay, so you came up with a viable product. You're going to take it to market. What did you do in terms of your marketing efforts?
Greg, we're breaking up a ton, and I actually didn't hear your question this time around. So unfortunately,
right. I'll do it again. So you came up with a viable product. How did you take it to market?
Well, it was actually Kickstarter originally. I came up with a prototype. I had about 1,000 people on an email list of basically, colleagues that I've worked with over about 10 years in the business of solar installations. Mm-hmm. And I put it up at my best effort of a commercial. I said, look, this may or may not work, but I take it straight to customers at a great price point, and we'll see what happens. And at the time I was a freelance consultant doing a bunch of design work on solar installations and projects. And all my clients knew that I was doing this. So as soon as it took off, I basically told them I was going to go full-time into GoSun, right. And started to build the business and the audience, and of course, build the product. And so we use a similar cycle now where we'll come up with an innovation, put it up on a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo, and build our best marketing argument with respect to features and benefits, and having tested the product and known exactly how it works. And we'll go and we'll see how people absorb that at that price point.
Is there a potential client profile, customer profile that you shoot at?
That's a great question. That's the $1 million question for GoSun. Who is our customer?
Yeah.
It's still the big eluding $1 million question. We see that it's an early adopter base on the beginning, first 5 years or so, but now we're moving towards mainstream customer base, and we do a broad spectrum, and we like to keep our spectrum as broad as possible, from kind of the lifestyle of health and sustainability, your Prius or Tesla driver, to sort of a rugged prepper that that needs to have something for their emergency bug out. So we don't alienate anywhere along that continuum. We're probably more in the 40 or 50 something than we are in the 20 or 30 something category of our customer base, but it's very male and female and
Really?
all over the nation.
That kind of increases your reach, so that's not a bad thing, right?
Right.
I mean, some people want to be specialists and pinpoint themselves, but I think you got the right idea with your product. It touches so many different demographics, really. So that's really a good, solid way to go.
It's a conundrum, from a marketing perspective. It makes it really difficult. It's probably very helpful if you know exactly who your customer is and you can point all your efforts in that.
I would be very busy if you were a client, quite frankly. We would be all over. Anyhow, so listen, in reading some of the background information on your company, I see that you guys are really top socially conscious and philanthropic. Can you tell me something about that, please?
Yeah. Ever since day one, I wanted to do as much as we could to break the cycle of poverty there's 3 billion people in the world still living with cooking over wood and charcoal every single day. They do that indoors, and it leads to unbelievable health issues. The Global Alliance for Clean Cooking is a nonprofit the UN Foundation put together that's really trying to address that issue. And we are one of the first solar manufacturers that they've kind of supported. We're doing work in a lot of developing countries where it's basically humanitarian work, just trying to create a sustainable enterprise, first starting with education to help develop a demand, and getting super low cost versions of our stoves into the hands of
that's wonderful.
Bottom of the pyramid.
That's wonderful. That's really great. I'm sure that and water, cooking and water are two main concerns in that part of the world. So I applaud you for doing that. Yeah, water.
We just launched a water purification.
Oh, did you?
system.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wonderful. Tell me about it.
It's up on Indiegogo right now. It's called the GoSun Flow. And it's a water purifier that runs, instead of having to pump it by hand, it's sort of like a backpack or small light version. We actually pump it with a small USB powered pump. And it comes with a little lithium ion power bank that you can charge with the sun. And then we turned it into a sink and a shower as well. So now, while you're at camp, you got your fresh water, and you can have a place to wash up, stay sanitized in the shower.
Amazing. You have a fertile brain, young man. Fertile. So listen, I'm sure along the way, you've had a lot of ups and downs, right? Everybody does. Tell me about those. Pick the best and the worst.
Oh boy. My highest points are probably that phase right after a big creative burst and you're getting ready, you launch a Kickstarter or a Indiegogo. It's always so exciting to see, a baby being birthed, an innovation of sorts going out into the market. And so I think even just about a year ago, we launched a big product, which was our solar cooler. And it was a moment of truth for the business. We were basically pivoting to be much more than just a stove and a solar charging and lighting company, but actually get into whole new markets of cooling. And that went really well. On the first day, I think we raised something like $150,000 in one day on a new product launch. And that was kind of the moment of reward. It's rare when you're busting your tail, that you sit back and really accept the gifts that good work provides, and that was a high point for sure.
That's very cool.
Hoping for many more. And low points, we had a situation about many years ago where we were really dependent on a new product and a new supplier. And we were 2/3 of the way, or almost 3/4 of the way through a contract of building a lot of 2,000 units. And the supplier said, this thing's now 2 times more expensive than our contract says. And so they pulled the blinders, or pulled the rug out from underneath us and hit us. And we were super, we were having a hard time with cash flow early on there. And it was a breaking point. And so we had to figure out really quickly what to do to fill this gap and to keep our customers happy. And so it definitely, the business has taken everything I could possibly put together with respect to resources, time, and energy.
That's why I love my job. I get to meet people like yourself who know from the ground up, from down in the basement to the top to the CEO's office, and every floor and every chair in between. I just love it. I love to talk to you guys. It's great. So what gets you up and going every day?
It's new ideas. We do still stick to the idea that our future is going to be solar powered, and we are building that future. It's coming together. GoSun has now built a way, without using any fuel, we have a way to cook, to cool, to charge, to light, power, to produce water, a sink, and a shower. And that's a pretty sweet little campsite or backyard setup. We're working on other ideas, like we're working on solar cooling. We're actually building a solar tiny house right now. So we're putting all of that under one roof.
Is that right?
And very so cool. The opportunity to keep innovating is really, for me, what I thrive on.
So, all right, you've received advice from many different sources over time, just like all of us. Pick one. What was the best one you think you ever received, piece of advice?
Yeah, I think it's something around, nothing ventured, nothing gained. I think you have to just, I think you can't be afraid of making mistakes. Make good mistakes. Make good, have really great, rich, thick, healthy failures that you can learn from.
Excellent.
Don't try to fail.
Excellent. So you turn failure into a learning experience, right?
Oh,
as difficult as that is at the time, you're going to learn something out of it.
Yeah, and then in that frustration is where the learning and the growth and development is happening. So, cool. Generally nothing perfect. It happens without difficulty, and that frustration is all part of it. And I think that's where a lot of the good stuff comes.
So I always ask my guests to leave a parting word of advice to their fellow CEOs and the people who are trying to get to the C-suite. Would you care to do that?
Oh, geez. I'm not a typical CEO, so maybe a lot of CEOs would say that. So I haven't been scrapping for this position much of my career. I have just found myself here. So in the way I found myself here was doing what I love. And so for me, I think it's do what you love and make sure what you're doing is coming from your heart, because I think that's where the best work's going to be for you. And I think that's a funny, most of us stay in our mind, and that's where I think, too much coffee and too much money mind, if you can settle a little lower and make sure that the center of your efforts is coming from your heart, you're probably going to find a really groovy space with balance, with a great team, and there'll be success. Maybe the success isn't as financially, it's not 7-figure success, but you'll probably have a much richer life.
Well, then isn't it a saying, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life?
It's true.
Right.
And make it your life's work, instead of separating work from your home life. I kind of just blend it all and just try to be fully, engaged in every side of it at all times. And
so
It makes it a little
Patrick,
harder to rest.
a little bit, just a little bit, but you know what? This is my second or third or fourth career, whatever it is. And I love it. I just absolutely love what I do. And it's not like work. I look forward to getting here every day and trying to figure out new stuff. So I really appreciate that comment. It's just, let's do what we love and it's going to turn out okay. You can only be responsible for the effort. The result is going to take care of itself, right?
That's great advice. Yeah.
So Patrick, I just want to thank you very, very much for being with me today. But I'd like you to tell the audience how they can get in touch with you and where they could find the GoSun products.
Yeah, you're going to find GoSun at gosun.co online. And I'm always happy to field questions, and I love mentoring and whatnot. My email is patrick@gosun.co. And like that new product is on Indiegogo. It's called the GoSun Flow. If this is out in July, you might want to check that out.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much, Patrick. I really appreciate it. Stay
Likewise,
well.
Greg.
Go put the solar panels back on your van. All right.
That's right.
Take care now. Bye-bye.
See you.